Order! Order! You are an incorrigible delinquent at times. Behave yourself, man!
So,
Interesting.
they're very interesting. I mean, it's quite...
Well, that's
these are quite
very
major
dramatic.
changes there. In fact, I think more major changes. It was Ted Heath in 1970 that brought in major changes with an environment department and a trade and industry department that he created. And this is one of the biggest shake-ups in Whitehall departments going way back to then. So how do these Whitehall departments then get organised now? Let's listen to two of the men heading two of the new departments.
So what are your priorities in this role?
Oh, we'll decide all those collectively.
And are you going to be prioritising access to the single market in this position?
Wait and see.
Is Boris Johnson your boss now?
Oh, I think we've got a wonderful future as a country. I think we've got tremendous opportunities to increase our global profile, and we should be extraordinarily optimistic and confident about the future.
Well, that's the new Minister for Trade, if I can call them that. Let's see how significant these Whitehall changes are. We're joined by Julian McRae from, fittingly, the Institute for Government. And I think we can say this morning there's a lot of change in the structure of government, much more than we thought when we booked you to come on.
It's sounding like that, isn't it? It's always dangerous to comment on the speculation, but it does seem like it's a very large change to the structure of government, to the shape of departments. And we haven't seen this for quite a time, because David Cameron was very conservative about this, probably because he didn't believe that changing things round actually makes people concentrate on the day job. It tends to distract them into, well, what's happening, who's sitting where, how's this operating?
It sort of may reflect Mrs May's priorities, though, Francis. I mean, you've been at the heart of government for many years. There's been lots of talk of giving infrastructure a new role, and that includes transport, so roll them together. There's been a lot of talk, as you will know, that energy policy was a bit of a mess, almost as big a mess as it is in Germany at the moment. So align that more with the business department. I think these are not changes just for the sake of changes, either. They reflect, I would suggest, the direction the May government wants to go.
Yes, I mean, it sounds like that. I mean, I'm always rather sceptical about Whitehall changes because they just cost a load of money and you move a lot of deck chairs around and
new titles,
new titles,
new plaques,
the same people sitting at slightly different desks, and you know, it's always the theory of it is always to kind of create joined up government, but all you do is you move the boundaries to different places and you disrupt all the ways for people to work together across those boundaries. So it is very disruptive. And there can be benefits from it. I mean, the biz department, which I was partly in over the last year, I think is a poorly led, not officially led department, and needs shaking up. It's
poorly led by the permanent bureaucracy.
Yes, absolutely. And I found it not high functioning.
And universities have now gone back to education, which is where they were many years ago when we all started out talking about this.
Which kind of makes sense.
It kind of makes sense because I understand that universities are connected to education. We've got two new departments, in a sense, with specific roles, one for trade deals, Liam Fox, one with the specific task of negotiating our withdrawal from the European Union. Where do they get the people for that?
Well, at the moment, I mean, you're right at the heart of this. It's very easy to talk about new organisations in abstract and just set them up. Like, you know, Francis is exactly right. You know, actually, it's the same people that you're trying to organise into these spaces. At the moment, they're pulling in a lot of people from around Whitehall, into particularly the Brexit department. That will go on for the next few weeks. I mean, this is literally finding desks and making sure people have the internet connection or whatever. As they get down to work, they may well base that around some of the infrastructure at the Cabinet Office, which can do a bit of that. It's better than just setting up a whole new organisation. Trade is interesting. I mean, you know, there was a thought that maybe the Brexit minister would get trade as well and create a proper permanent department that could go on. Whereas instead we've got this department that's short-term, just doing the negotiation, and a trade department separate from it.
But the trade minister is under instructions now to go and do as many trade deals as they can. No one person could do that, travelling around the world to do that and do the negotiations at the same time.
No, I think that's right.
Yeah,
I mean,
Yeah, it's going to be fascinating to see how many negotiations we can really get underway
Let
as
me
well.
ask you
at
this,
point.
because, I mean, after all, Mrs. May, a month ago, 2 weeks ago maybe, didn't know she was going to be Prime Minister. When Ted Heath came in 1970, he had given massive thought to how to reorganise Whitehall and the departments, and it was big, first ever Department of the Environment in the Western world. Even Tony Blair, Gordon Brown, they made sure they had thought about them, debated them privately, and yet here we have this major change. We have no evidence that Mrs. May was ever thinking of any of this.
Yeah, well, I mean, and also around elections, the opposition tends to talk to the civil service very privately and give them warning of this. We put that in deliberately because actually this is hugely disruptive. This is people who will be sitting at their desks thinking, where am I working? How do I, where am I going to be based next? There'll be loads of things like the wage levels between these departments are different. People will spend ages talking about that. And it's just a little dangerous to stick this distraction on top of the huge challenges for government. But also remember, we'll probably have to reorganise UK government again as it becomes clear what exactly our new relationship with Europe is, how much we have to do that we haven't done previously. So, you know, it's a little surprising that she's chosen to do this big change this quickly, with presumably this little planning.
Right, well, thank you for that. It'll keep the Institute of Government in a job, that's for sure.
Well,
You have to
I'm
get
not
to-
sure
to-
that is necessarily what the
I know
nation was
it's not the
hoping
primary
for.
purpose. We can now confirm, because it's on a 10 Downing Street press release, that Jeremy Hunt will continue as Secretary of State for Health. Well, we've managed to get that wrong about 6 different ways so far, so it's finally good to get the record straight. The new
And
leader...
Baroness Evans is the new leader of the House of Lords.
There we go.
Interest for you?
Yep.
A good thing?
She's very good, yeah. I've known her a long time. She's very young, but extremely capable, bright. Yep.
Henrietta Barnett School and the University of Cambridge.
Yep.
There, and of course Justice Greening, state school educated, head now of the education department.
Indeed.
Again, playing to Mrs. May's, at least her rhetoric anyway,
Yep.
if not her agenda.
All right, well.
I've been getting away